So there's going to be major spoilers for the My Hero manga in this video, so there's your warning. So it was recently revealed that Eri used her rewind quirk on Mirio, and that allowed him to reclaim his quirk that he had lost in the overhaul arc. And that raises the question of like, could she do this to other people, like All Might, for example? And in my opinion, I think that she could. I don't see why not. So let me explain why I think that is. So first of all, Mirio lost his quirk because he was shot with the quirk destroying bullet. And this was created by Overhaul using the blood and cells of Eri. And one way or another, he was able to figure out how to make this target somebody's quirk factor, and using Eri's ability that's tied to all of this, rewound the quirk factor back to a state of where it just didn't exist, I guess. And that brings us to Eri using her quirk on Mirio to undo that. So Eri's quirk isn't like a healing quirk similar to like Recovery Girl's. Her quirk just, I guess, manipulates time, or just the time of like a person or a being or something like that. Pretty sure it has to work on like living things. So she's not like healing his quirk factor or anything like that. She's rewinding Mirio's body, the time of it, back to a point of where he still had his quirk factor intact. So Mirio says it's like 3 months or something like that since he lost his quirk against Overhaul. So we can assume that Eri just rewound his body 3 months or a little bit more, maybe that, to the point of where he still had his quirk. So that all makes sense to me, but we just have to assume that maybe she's just targeting his quirk factor somehow, because if she is rewinding his entire body, wouldn't like his brain be rewound 3 months as well? So he would lose all of the memories and knowledge that he has up until the current day. I mean, he clearly doesn't, but that's just, you know, a little problematic thing that we can look at. We could just assume that she's just targeting everything except his brain, I guess. But I just want to put that out there because I guess it's a potential problem that could arise with what she could do to All Might in this hypothetical instance. But anyway, given that it is 100% confirmed that she has the ability to do this to an individual, it makes me think that she could totally do this to All Might. Like, not only bring his quirk back, but also revert him to the point where he was his strongest. But in order for her to do this, she would have to send him back way further than 3 months, like what she did with Mirio. Like, in order for All Might to regain the peak of his power, she would have to send him back about 7 or 8 years. And I say that because that's like the point in time we know when he was able to initially defeat All for One. Because like, I guess we, the audience, are led to believe that that was in fact the peak of his power. But that's why we want to go back to like maybe like 8 years or something, just to be safe, because it's in that fight with All for One where he gets, you know, grievously wounded and is nerfed as a result of that. And if you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on this epic battle that happened in the past between All Might and All for One, check out this video where I speculate about like what could have happened. So pretty much everything that happens to All Might in between those 7 years or so is, I guess, irrelevant to her quirk, because she could just override all of that stuff. So like him getting wounded and nerfed to the point of where he could barely use his power, you know, him later on passing One for All onto Izuku and then only retaining the residual embers of it. I don't think this is an issue with All Might regaining One for All or even his prime physicality, because like I said, Eri's quirk just focuses on time, I suppose. So it would send All Might back to that specific point in time where he was at the absolute peak of his physicality, as well as him also having One for All in his quirk factor. Now, can Eri even rewind somebody that far back? Because so far we've seen her, you know, do it to like Izuku, which was just, I guess, a couple seconds at the most, and then we just did it with Mirio, which was like months. And I'm gonna say, yeah, she totally could rewind him about 8 years if she really wanted to. And that's because as a child, we saw her like accidentally rewind her own father back to a point of like non-existence, I guess. I mean, there are some jokes as to what he became, but from the look of it, it looks like she just rewinded him to, you know, before he was even born and further just, you know, non-existence more or less. So if she could do that, I think she can absolutely rewind All Might, you know, 8 years to, you know, his prime or his peak. So now that I've established that it's entirely possible that this could happen, let's talk about like, will it happen? And in my opinion, no, unfortunately. It would be incredible. Of course, I would pay for this to happen, but I think that's also why it's not going to happen, because it's just too good. Sometimes things are just like too good if that makes sense. And I'm just saying for like any series in particular, like it would just be incredible if certain things happened in all of the series that we like, but it would be too good if it happened, and maybe it would even ruin the story because it's too good. And that's exactly why this probably won't happen. Because if All Might was rewound to his prime using Eri's quirk, he would pretty much be unbeatable, especially in like the current meta of My Hero. Like just taking a look at how powerful All Might was like at Kamino going against All For One and the USJ Nomu before that, and we're seeing how powerful Izuku is right now, and he's only able to use just a small portion. We also saw him go against Overhaul. And in my opinion, Prime All Might is way more powerful than all of those examples. Like he can probably solo the entire My Hero verse at the moment if he were to just appear at this point. I mean, is there ways to defeat him? Of course. I mean, if Shigaraki could somehow sneak up on him and decay him, then I'm sure he would die from that. But it's just, I guess unlikely that that would happen given how fast and powerful he is. But also now in this hypothetical situation, Prime All Might is now in the story, the stakes are lowered. Because, like I said, no one can even rival this crazy amount of power that he has. So there would no longer be any issues. Like the Paranormal Liberation Front or pretty much anybody else that we know of would stand no chance against Prime All Might. So there's like no stakes anymore because of that. So like that's why it won't happen, because like I said, it would kind of ruin the story while also being incredible at the same time. But besides that, another reason why it won't happen is because Eri just used her quirk on Mirio, and it takes time for her to like accumulate whatever she needs to accumulate, time particles or whatever, in order for her to use her quirk again. That amount of time is going to spill over into this arc being over, and that no longer really being necessary, I suppose. And besides, All Might is already pretty much destined to die, and maybe even soon, you know, at least according to Night Eye's vision. So that kind of seals the deal there as well. Although it would be awesome if it is revealed that maybe she rewound All Might at the same time she rewound Mirio, and then he comes back and maybe he's not in his prime, but maybe he's like in his USJ form or something, and he has some moments and then he's killed by Shigaraki. I mean, yeah, it would suck, but he's just going to die anyway, so at least it would be really cool for him to have at least one last moment, even though his last moment was against All For One at Kamino. Give him another last moment, why not? But yeah, I guess that's it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Do you think it's possible for Eri's rewind quirk to bring All Might back to his prime? Let me know in the comments. And if you liked the video, guys, please give it a like. And also, please subscribe if you haven't already. I have a Twitch, I got a Patreon, stuff's going on there. So check those out, please. And have a great day. See you in the next one.